torch to Izuku Midoriya, whom he's training to be his successor. After using up all of the embers for One For All to defeat All For One, All Might retired and ended his era as the world's greatest hero. Welcome to Miyamagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of All Might. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Background. Toshinori was born quirkless during a time in the world where evil ran rampant due to the influence of All For One. Crime rates were on the rise because citizens had no hero to believe in. During his teenage years, Toshinori met Nana Shimura, who was like a motherly figure to him. He told Nana that he wanted to create a world where everyone can smile and live happily together. For that to happen, the world needed a symbol of peace to inspire a new age of harmony. Toshinori believed he could become the pillar that inspires people everywhere. Nana passed One For All down to Toshinori, making him the 8th torchbearer of the Great Power. Toshinori attended the UA High School, where Nana's friend, Gran Torino, served as his homeroom teacher and trained him. Toshinori's body was strong enough to utilize One For All at 100% from the start of training, so Gran Torino mainly focused on as his homeroom teacher and trained him. Toshinori's body was strong enough to utilize One For All at 100% from the start of training, so Gran Torino mainly focused on teaching Toshinori how to properly fight. Although his training methods were so harsh that he accidentally instilled an innate fear within him. All Might Rising. Inheriting One For All comes with dangers of facing All For One. Eventually, Toshinori, Nana, and Gran Torino faced All For One, but he proved to be too powerful. Nana sacrificed herself so that Toshinori could live on, entrusting his safety to Gran Torino. Toshinori could only watch as his master gave her life against All For One's promised his Ushman Nana, Gran Torino continued training Toshinori in her place. However, Toshinori was distraught after the death of his master, and wasn't able to train to his potential. Thoughts of revenge plagued Toshinori's mind, and he wished to avenge Nana, who he saw as a true hero. Gran Torino reminded Toshinori that his enemy is a man who walked the earth for over 100 years. Toshinori cried while saying his master gave up everything to raise One For All's next torchbearer, and admits that he thought of her as his own mother. Gran Torino recommended him to train in the United States after he graduated, so All For One couldn't reach him and to gain experience as a hero. He reminded Toshinori why Nana sacrificed herself and restored his resolve. That spring, Toshinori graduated from UA and prepared to cross the ocean. Before he departed, Toshinori reminded himself of his master's trademark smile. He shaped his hair and donned what would become his own signature smile for the first time as All Might. All Might in America. Soon after moving to Los Angeles, California, Toshinori rescued a group of scientists from an explosion. One of these upcoming student scientists was David Shield. David thanked Toshinori and noticed his destroyed attire. He developed a sturdy hero costume that would come to be known as All Might's young age costume. Toshinori and David would quickly become best friends and acted as a hero team throughout California. Toshinori shared his dreams with David. He told him that he desired to become a symbol of peace and shine a light on the world. Together, they took down a pair of LA villains, and David even relayed All Might's message to everyone watching, truly believing that one day All Might would become the world's top hero. During this time, he met Melissa Shield, David's daughter, who was born quirkless. Over time, All Might would serve as an uncle figure to Melissa. He encouraged her to become a support engineer in order to help other people, just like her father. Return to Japan. Eventually, Toshinori returns to his home country, and his meteoric rise would only continue through the bronze, silver, and golden ages of his career. Eventually becoming the world's symbol of peace and #1 hero, All Might reached the pinnacle dreams and inspired a new age of pro heroes, where the country finally knew peace. Japan's crime rate dropped down to below 6% because of All Might's presence, issuing in an era of peace. However, the looming threat of All For One was still present. All Might took on a new partner, a fan with the ability to see the future named Sir Night-Eye. Sir Night-Eye would act as the brains of All Might's operations, while the #1 hero was operating at the peak of his career. For many years, their partnership worked well. The Underground Masquerade. All Might returned to the Might Tower after spending 3 days resolving consecutive incidents, setting a new record. After thanking the reporters and journalists gathered there for their encouragement and congratulations, All Might retired behind the Might Gate to rest. Before going to sleep, Toshinori asked Sir Night-Eye for any last-minute job, but his sidekick told him his priority should be resting after going 72 hours working non-stop. Just then, they received an emergency dispatch from Osaka after the Might signal was activated. Sir Night-Eye wanted to check first if local heroes can take care of the situation, but All Might transformed into his muscular form and blasted off, knowing Osaka's call for him personally. The reason for that emergency was caused by All For One, who, in his desire to steal the quirk Overclock from the hero O'Clock, had transformed several people into a violent mob that was rampaging through the city. Once he arrived at Osaka, and in the blink of an eye, All Might defeated all of the villains. Then, after being informed of the situation, he goes to the place where the crowd emerged. But when he arrived, all traces of All For One had disappeared, being only O'Clock and a couple of his allies. The beginning of the end of All Might. Eventually, Destiny caught up with him, and once again, All Might was brought face to face with All For One. The symbol of peace became the first torchbearer to defeat All For One, completely crushing his head. This was at the cost of critical injuries, as All Might's stomach was lost and his respiratory system was damaged beyond repair. This created a limit on how long All Might could use One For All, reducing his ability to be the symbol of peace. Due to his injuries and condition, Sir Night-Eye pleaded with All Might to retire, as he didn't want All Might to push himself to the brink of death, but he refused. Nezu agreed with Sir Night-Eye and told All Might that he could look for a successor for All For One in the UA High School, an idea that Sir Night-Eye considered as the best option. Toshinori agreed that the symbol of peace would need a successor, but refused to step down in case any new villain stepped up. All Might asked who the symbol of peace would be until he finds that successor. Even though All For One was gone, another villain like him will eventually appear. Sir Night-Eye threatened to stop helping should All Might continue his reign as the #1 hero. He even uses his foresight quirk to warn All Might of his impending death. He told him that in 6 to 7 years, he'll confront a villain and head towards a gruesome death. All Might ignored Night-Eye's warning, and they dissolved their partnership completely. In order to raise a proper successor, All Might enlisted himself as a teacher at UA High 5 years later. He spoke with Nezu about a potential replacement, and the principal believed that Mirio Togata, one of UA's students, would make a fitting successor to One For All. Vigilante's beginning arc. During the period between when he defeated All For One until he became a professor at UA, Toshinori was involved in a series of events caused by a criminal organization known as the Villain Factory, whose goals were unknown. For several weeks, the Villain Factory was dedicated to distributing through Naruhata streets a drug known as Trigger, an illegal substance that boosts quirks, but turns its consumers into violent instant villains, causing several incidents. One day, one of the factory's agents, Kuin Hachisuka, uses her Queen Bee quirk to inject the drug into innocent civilians, turning them into a horde of instant villains, causing chaos at the streets. Suddenly, All Might and several other heroes, such as Airjet, Ingenium, Endeavor, Midnight, Eraserhead, and several others, appear, and in a short space of time, they suppress all the instant villains. Due to the villain outbreak, where several innocent people were turned into instant villains, Detective Eizo Tanuma organized a meeting in the police station with several of the heroes who helped stop the outbreak to discuss the situation and the best action to take. Because All Might couldn't attend, Eizo sent his partner Naomasa to the Might Tower to request All Might's help in dealing with the Trigger outbreak, specifically telling him to talk to his secretary-manager, Yoshinori Yagi. On the top floor, the receptionist tells Naomasa that All Might will be returning shortly from Hokkaido. The Might Tower's roof opens up, and All Might lands down. Many reporters ask All Might questions about global affairs, however, All Might apologizes and decides to leave office affairs to his staff. All Might retreats behind the Might Gate, which is only accessible to All Might himself. Naomasa couldn't talk to All Might, but went to the receptionist to ask for Mr. Yagi. Coincidentally, Toshinori Yagi, All Might in his true form, is by the receptionist as well, and hears Naomasa's request. Toshinori and Naomasa chat in Might Tower Cafe, with Toshinori introducing himself as Might's Productions' second secretarial office, and that he handles All Might's private affairs. Naomasa explains the instant villain rampages that have been happening recently, to which Toshinori suggests that heroes should be more cautious going forward. However, while they're having a conversation, Toshinori constantly makes excuses and runs to perform quick deeds as All Might. In the end, Toshinori accidentally returns with the uniform still visible, revealing his dual identity as All Might. Toshinori asks Naomasa to keep his identity a secret, to which Naomasa replies that he will, but he tells Toshinori that the police force is troubled by his spontaneous acts of heroism and calls him out on not filing reports on all of his heroic activities, as customary of a professional hero. Toshinori is well aware that he must follow standard procedures when heroes wield their powers, but he wants to help people without being burdened by unnecessary procedures. While Naomasa understands him, he tells that every hero must follow the rules, and it would be a bad example if people know that the #1 hero neglects his hero duties. Taking pity on All Might, Naomasa offers to file the reports for him, letting All Might act without any worries apart from telling him about his unplanned hero activities. Toshinori is delighted with Naomasa's offer and accepts it, exchanging his personal contact number with him. The next day, Naomasa receives several cases of All Might's unplanned heroics and wonders if it was Eizo's plan to push All Might's ordeals onto him from the start. Sky Egg Arc. After this, Toshinori and Naomasa become friends, and for the next months they have several meetings to keep themselves informed of their mutual jobs, with All Might carrying out his hero duties, and Naomasa continuing with police investigation to stop the traffic of Trigger and the Villain Factory. One day, after resolving a series of incidents in Okinawa, Toshinori Yagi returns to the Might Tower for a meeting with Naomasa in the building's cafeteria, only to find out the detective has his arm in a sling and several fractures. Naomasa explains to him that his injuries are the result of a confrontation he had against a villain, related to the Villain Factory. Although he tries to not give importance, Toshinori is worried and tells him that if he had known, he would have come to help him. The detective replies that his public figure, All Might, can't be taking jobs for personal reasons, and can't prioritize saving certain people because they could be taken hostage or used as a diversion by villains. Toshinori cannot deny that he's right. With the start of the new year, Detective Naomasa and Toshinori have another meeting, in which they say they hope to continue working together another year. Naomasa informs him that recently they've obtained new and important information about the case he's investigating. All Might offers to help him, but although he's grateful, Naomasa tells him that it's not possible. Police investigations lead Naomasa to discover the place where the Villain Factory carries out its illegal experiments. A police raid takes place, but number 6, the same villain who left Naomasa badly wounded the previous time, is there, and he blows up the place before escaping with 5 creatures called Bombers, in order to attack the Tokyo Sky Egg and kill Captain Celebrity. Luckily, Naomasa survives, and in a police helicopter, he goes to the Tokyo Sky Egg, where he sees several heroes fighting the Bombers. The hero Eraserhead is with him and asks him to call All Might to come to the place to help, because although it seems that the heroes are winning, the threat isn't over yet. Naomasa agrees to Aizawa's requests and calls All Might, who at the time is in a meeting at Might Tower as Toshinori Yagi. Upon hearing Naomasa's call, Toshinori apologizes and goes to a secluded area to talk to him. Naomasa tells him that Tokyo Sky Egg is in trouble, but before he can clarify the situation, Toshinori hears an explosion on the phone. Seeing how his creatures were being defeated, number 6 had ordered the last one to self-destruct in a powerful explosion, which causes the Tokyo Sky Egg to begin to collapse, with thousands of people still inside. Upon hearing the explosion and Naomasa's request for help, the number 1 hero immediately leaves the Might Tower, taking him only a few seconds to reach the place, and in a flash, he smashes the remains of the tower out of the way, flattens the ground, brings animals to safety, and lands the Tokyo Sky Egg dome safely, saving everyone. The bystanders are stunned by the inhuman feat and start cheering for All Might. The media reports the bombers' attack on the Tokyo Sky Egg, while hosting a large-scale event with some of the most famous heroes, and how All Might saved everyone from the disaster when the tower began to fall. Journalists and reporters ask All Might about his opinion. He's simply thankful that there aren't any fatalities, and praises the efforts of the pro-heroes, law enforcement, and relief workers to care for the victims. After his statement, he says goodbye and runs away, being pursued by the media. After eluding them, All Might, now Toshinori Yagi, returns to the place and meets secretly with Naomasa. He tells him that he's going to stick around for a while in case there's another attack. Naomasa apologizes for getting bent out of shape, but Toshinori tells him that it's fine, and that it was his impassioned plea that got him there in time. Toshinori explains to Naomasa that his quirk has a strong psychological component to his strength. When he hears a plea for help, he feels like it's a direct order to All Might. He tells him that it's because he accepted his power in order to save everyone and give them hope. Naomasa feels confused about how he accepted his power, and All Might realizes that he has unwittingly revealed an important fact regarding One For All. Before the conversation continues, they're interrupted by Shota Aizawa, Batgum, and Monica, and Naomasa introduces them to Toshinori Yagi, who thinks that one of these days he'll have to explain to Naomasa everything about the secret behind All Might. In the distance, at the top of the building, number 6 watches the whole scene, still furious that All Might ruined his plans.